Hey guys, my name is Haley and today I'm going to be filming an unhaul, which I have not done in a very long time. I think I have a couple unhauls on my channel from like back in the day, but I usually just get rid of books like pretty spontaneously. So this time I was like, okay, me and Kate are planning on going to Half Price Books when she gets here. Might as well film an unhaul of all the books that I'm getting rid of. So that's what we're doing today. These are really not in any particular order. I guess I have them like grouped together by like what type of book it is. But I'm literally just gonna jump in. First up, we have some Christian nonfiction that like I didn't even like necessarily dislike. Some I just felt like were not for me. Oh, we have a Christian fiction in here as well. Some I felt like just weren't for me or for my age range, and others I know I will never reread and didn't really annotate, so I'm just gonna give them to Half Price Books in the hopes that somebody else can enjoy them. The first one of those being The Heartache No One Sees by Sheila Walsh. I don't remember this book. It was not memorable. It's been many years since I read it and I literally remember nothing. So I'm just gonna pass this along to the used bookstore. We have I Kissed Dating Goodbye by Joshua Harris. I did enjoy this when I read it, but I feel like the author has become slightly controversial lately and I know I will never reread this, but it was good for the time that I read it, which was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. And we have Red Like Blood. I literally read this last year and cannot remember what it was about. So, not my favorite Christian nonfiction, so I'm just gonna pass this along. I think this is one that was set in Ohio, and I found it in the thrift store, and that was why I picked it up. But I literally don't remember anything they talked about in this, which is not a good sign. I have Live Original by Sadie Robertson. If you probably know who Sadie Robertson is if you're a Christian. This is definitely just not written for my age range. This is written for teenage girls and I was too old when I read it, but I thought it was fine. Once again, I have Your Own Beautiful by Chelsea Crockett. I actually really like Chelsea Crockett. I still follow her and her husband on YouTube, but I read this and bought it simply to support her. And again, it is written for teenage girls. If you're a teenage girl and like want to get into some Christian nonfiction, read this. But it was not for me. Then I have a little daily devotional that I'm not going to reread called Sanctuary by David Jeremiah. This is like super short devotions that you're supposed to read daily. I'm going to pass this along. And into the Christian fiction, I have The First Phone Call from Heaven by Mitch Albom. I actually really liked this when I read it, but it was not super memorable. I think this is what happened. It's in a town where they start getting phone calls from people that have passed away and they're trying to figure out how it happened and why it's happening. And I just remember not loving the ending of this and I will never reread it. So again, for Christian fiction, I have the only Francine Rivers book that I've successfully read so far, and that is Redeeming Love. This is a Hosea retelling, Hosea being the book in the Bible, and I appreciate Hosea for what it is, but this book was super frustrating to read because I felt like I could not root for the couple. And I know you're supposed to know that like they messed up a lot, but I like did not have a good time reading this. I also felt it was a little problematic. Like I think Francine Rivers used to be a romance writer before she became a Christian, and you can tell in this book, and I did not enjoy the way that the sexual content was written, so I'm a little bit scared to read more Francine Rivers books, but I think I'm gonna try ones that are not supposed to be a romance and I should be fine. Then I have a book I feel bad getting rid of, and that's It Could Happen Here by Greg Watson. I did read this. I gave it a 3.5 stars. This is a self-published book, so it's really short. It was fine. I told the author it was fine. I gave him a review on Goodreads, but it was pretty good, but I'm not gonna reread it. I have two like devotional type books that I'm getting rid of that I might actually try to give to Kate because I definitely annotated a lot in these and I don't know if Half Price Books will enjoy that. The first being The Story, which is the Bible written as if it was one continuous story and like a little bit, not dumbed down, but like more accessible to people who have trouble getting through the Bible in different translations. And I thought this was pretty good. I definitely underlined a lot in here and wrote a little bit in it, so if you're new to reading the Bible, I think this would be good for you. And then I have the 1 year NIV devotional New Testament. This is just a devotional that you're supposed to do daily that I annotated a lot in, as you can probably see, so that's why I think Half Price Books might not take it, because there's a lot of writing in it and I never give them books with writing. I have two Christian nonfictions, one being The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. I bought this because my church did a series on this when I was new to church, so I bought it to be able to read it with them. I think this is fine. It's not my favorite Christian nonfiction by any means. And then I have Love Like You've Never Been Hurt, which we were supposed to do with a women's small group, and I did not read it because I did not like the writing style. So I never read it. But I'm getting rid of both of these because I'm not gonna reread this, and I'm never gonna read this. I really did not like the writing style. Then we have a bunch of graphic novels that I'm getting rid of. These are so heavy, I'm gonna die. I'm literally just gonna pick from the stacks behind me, ignore the ones that you can see. This is The Empty Man. I read this and really didn't like it, so I'm getting rid of it. We have Superior Spider-Man. I never read this. This is like the middle of a Spider-Man series, and I really like Spider-Man, but there's way too much to catch up on, and graphic novels are expensive, so I'm giving this to Half Price Books. Then we have Username Evie. I remember absolutely nothing about this. I read it probably like six or 7 years ago, and it's a series, and I'm never going to continue with it. Another one to get rid of is the Batman Chronicles Volume 1. This is just a bunch of old Batman comics that I also never read. We have Lock and Key Volume 1. I liked the idea of this, but this has so much sexual content in it that I cannot make myself read the rest of the series, which is really unfortunate because I think the concept is interesting, but it's so dark and so sexual that I'm like, no thank you. And we have Volume 1 of Young Avengers. The Avengers is something that I, like, in theory would love to read all of the comics. This isn't even the actual Avengers. This is a different one-off series. I think there's 3 of them. This was fine. I thought it was funny. I liked the humor in it, but I'm never gonna go and look for the rest of these and read the rest of the series, so yeah. We have another Spider-Man one. I think this was the first Spider-Man comic that I ever picked up. It says the classic comic book stories that inspired the film with, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. You know who that is. But I read this, I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna look for more Spider-Man comics. And then I have War Brothers, a graphic novel. This was actually an ARC that I found at the thrift store, and I actually really liked this. It's a historical fiction graphic novel, which I've never seen, and I enjoyed this, but again, I'm never gonna reread it. And then we have the first 5 volumes of The Walking Dead, which I love the Walking Dead TV show, which is why I bought these. I got to volume 3 and then gave up because I did not like the way the story was going, which I think I'm just gonna keep The Walking Dead in my brain as a TV show and like ignore the fact that all these graphic novels existed, because these are even so much more sexual than the TV show, and I was like, no thank you. Especially not in graphic novel form. I do not want to see that. This is a super random book that I'm not even sure how I acquired, but it's a picture book about Elvis, who I know nothing about. So this is like one of those coffee table books that I'm sure somebody else will be very excited to have, but I don't need it. Now I think we're getting into some middle grade. Besides this, this is an ARC of Truth, which I don't even think Half Price Books will take this because it's an ARC. But I'm definitely going to try and get rid of it because I own it in hardcover somewhere around here and still need to reread it to continue the series. These are books I've held on to for so long because I met David Lubar in middle school, and it was like the one and only author signing I had ever been to, and I went with like my English class, and these are Revenge of the Road Weenies, True Talents, and Hidden Talents. This is a duology, I believe, of kids with superpowers, and this is a bunch of short stories that are like really creepy. I think these are fun. If you know anybody who's in the middle grade range, I do recommend these, but I know I'm never going to reread them and I need to just give them up. For more middle grade readers, I have The Search for Wanda, is that what they're called? Yeah. And I have this entire series. I really enjoyed these. They're really fun for a middle grade, and I think you can read them as an adult as opposed to some middle grade that I feel like is too much, but I'm never going to reread this series, and a middle grade child is going to enjoy these much more than I did. And then I have the Five Nights at Freddy's books. I read the first one and really enjoyed it a couple years ago during my Five Nights at Freddy's phase because I like horror, I liked the video games, I liked watching Let's Plays of the video games, but I tried to read the Twisted ones. I didn't even get to the fourth closet. And they read so young, and the thriller aspects are not worth it. They read too young, they're too easy to figure out, and so I just like happily put them down and like would like to stick with the first one being fine if you like Five Nights at Freddy's. Then we have 2 books that I literally just read, and one of which I'm gonna give to Kate. If Kate wants the other one, yeah, Kate, you can have it. But that is The Shining Girls. This was fine, I gave it 3 stars, and then Fun Home, which was also fine, and I gave like 3.5 stars. I'm just not going to reread these. I know Kate actually does want to read this. Then I'm getting rid of, what is this called? The Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I love her other trilogy, Kiss of Deception trilogy, and this is supposed to be a continuation in the same world but with different characters. But the main reason I loved that trilogy is for Leah, however you pronounce her name. And since she's not the main character, I tried to start this like 3 times and do not care. So I'm unhauling it. I'm also getting rid of Zebulon Finch. I actually really liked this. It was very entertaining. It's about a guy who like can't die, and so he's basically a walking zombie. The humor in this is very funny. It's a duology, but I've had the opportunity to pick up the second book so many times in used bookstores and on thrift books, and I just never buy it. So I think I'm just gonna pass this along. Then I'm getting rid of Full Disclosure. This is a book of the month book. Kate gave this to me. She also didn't enjoy it that much. I picked this up because it has Rent as the musical that this girl is helping direct, and Rent is my favorite musical, so I literally read it for that reason. It was fine. And I have another trilogy, and that is the Chaos Walking trilogy, which I love these covers, but I know I'm not going to reread this trilogy ever, even though it was really fun when I read it. The first being The Knife of Never Letting Go, The Ask and the Answer, and Monsters of Men. I really liked this trilogy when I read it, probably like 2 years ago. It's just not one of the ones I want to keep on my shelf because I'm not going to reread it, as opposed to a lot of the other trilogies from that time period that I read. So I'm going to be giving these to somebody who's going to be really excited to see the whole trilogy at Half Price Books. And then I feel like a terrible person because of these ones, but I'm getting rid of my other J. Kristoff books. Even though I love Nevernight and need to reread it, his YA book, Lifelike, I really didn't like. It's too YA sci-fi with like too much weird lingo that I didn't enjoy. I'm not going to continue this series. His first trilogy, which is, what is this called? The Lotus War trilogy. First one being Storm Dancer, Kinslayer, and Endsinger. I read Storm Dancer and the writing was so confusing to the point that I didn't realize 2 of our male main characters were 2 different people. I thought they were the same person. So I don't know if that's past me's fault or if they just don't have different enough personalities, but that put me off from reading the rest of this series. I have started Kinslayer like twice and couldn't care less because I would have to reread this, but since I didn't even enjoy this that much, I don't want to reread it. So I'm just going to pass on the whole trilogy. But yeah, that is my unhaul. That's all the books I'm getting rid of right now. There might be a couple more I might throw in the boxes before we leave, but that's the vast majority of them. I hope you enjoyed this. I really like watching unhauls much more than book hauls. Let me know if I have offended you by any of the books I'm getting rid of. But thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys next time.